Hey, it's fun.
So Jared and I went to CSU together, it was BBC at the time. And he and his twin brother were in Ridley along with me, along with you. Are you in Ridley, Aaron?
I'm in your room.
Okay, so that's Joe, Aaron,
Hey,
Beth,
Joe, Aaron.
Rose, Hosanna.
Beth,
And
Susanna.
Emily's not here today, so we're recording this especially for her. She may be doing a 4-week internship in Chile this summer with ABWE.
Wow,
She'll be especially
cool.
interested to hear what you've got going on. So thanks so much for joining us, man. Give us a little introduction of who you are, your family, we'll talk about your ministry first, and then we'll talk about how you got there, and then we'll talk about evidence of God at work there in Chile.
Yeah,
How do you want to
well,
kick us off?
I could share my other screen, the other screen, if it lets me. Let me see how to do that here. We're all Zoom experts by now, right?
Theoretically, yes.
Theoretically. All right, how do I share my screen here?
I might have to give you access to that.
It should be down the middle.
I see a share screen. There we go.
Yeah.
Host disabled it, so I need to be.
Well, not disabled it, just haven't abled it yet. Multiple participants.
Hey, I'm just telling you what Zoom tells me, man.
I know.
They say it's
Try it.
correct.
Try it now.
All right. Oh, cool. That works. Share. All right. Okay. So there you see, there's my family. So I want to introduce you to them. I was so into missions, I went and married someone from Chile. So that makes me really missionary-like.
Well,
So
only if
there's
she was
my
not
wife.
saved beforehand. That's
No,
next
I didn't go
level,
that far. So you can see my wife, her name is Naldi, Naldy, and then I have 3 kids. My oldest is Tomas. My second oldest is Kelsey. He's 8 and she is 5. And then our youngest is 2. Her name is Annalise, and she is large and in charge of the entire house. And so this is our family and our family picture for the ministry. We just got this done about in Mother's Day. This picture was taken, so we used it for our ministry. But we've been here. I've been in missions since 2006 officially, starting with as an independent and then with ABWE, and that's part of the story. You'll hear that later on. And so it's all just about 15 years of ministry, cross-cultural missions is what I would call it. And so I figured we get started with, I wanted to prove to you that I was at BBC or Clark Summit University. So there you go. That's a Ridley moment, and you probably don't know any of those guys, but yeah, Paul, this guy here in the middle. I don't know if you can see him with the glasses on in the very middle. Paul, do you know this? Josh Hartzler? Do you know who he's married to?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Amy Lee from Evanescence. He was my roommate. We were roommates, and I never knew he even got married to her until I asked him to be in my wedding. He never responded. So, but there it was. So that's our some of our Ridley people. There's another picture to prove I was there, but Paul was not in this picture. So this is a Ridley dorm. Yeah, this is going back, man. And then you're in this next one. Let's see if it changes. You're in this was like an alumni day or something.
Oh, yeah.
I remember back when after we graduated.
Right.
And you're in this one.
Yeah.
So
I see you right here.
there he is.
Yeah.
That's me clean shaven, Dr. Mac.
Yeah, man. So this is to prove. So what he said is right. What he said is right. I was in school with you guys, and to be honest, some of the most formative years of my life were there at BBC. And I confess, also went to another college for my junior year. I went to Clearwater Christian College and back to BBC my senior year. So I loved BBC after going to Clearwater. Let's just say that. And so what we always talk about this great and how do you say it? Co-mission. Can you say it that way? And I always show this slide when we talk about, before I get into anything missions, because this slide is not an old study. It's from 2018. Barna did it, and it says, as you can see, to church goers, people who go to church, evangelical people go to church, have you heard of the Great Commission? You can see what the answers are. And so 51% said no. 25% said yes, but I can't really tell you what it means right now. So put that as a no. All right. So it's what, 76%. And then 6 said I'm not sure. So there you go. Now 82% of the people could not give an answer of what is the Great Commission. And then 17%. I hope you're part of the 17%, but because of the statistics, I won't take that for granted. So please don't be offended when I look at you and I ask you that, have you read this Great Commission before? Or this Great Commission before? And I'm sure you have. That's why you're in the class, and I'm sure Paul has gone over it, and it's the basis of who we are as Christians, not just as missionaries. And so wanted to show this is just the Great Commission. As you're going, make disciples. And so starting off with that, I'll get into a little bit of our testimony. I'm trying to click through here at the same time. It doesn't seem to be working. Let me see here. There we go. So I went to Chile, and I don't think it's showing you all the picture. There we go. I went to Chile in 2006, and that was when I just clashed with another culture. I had been on many mission trips. I'd been out of the country. I started my desire to be a missionary started when I was 15 years old, and I grew up in a place called High Point Camp and High Point Church, not about 2 hours there from BBC or CSU, sorry, and the Lord had already worked in my life through many different things at camp and on the mission field with mission trips. And I went to college knowing I wanted to be a missionary. I don't know if and any of you there want to be a missionary. Are you for sure you want to be in the missions? Raise your hand again. I'm looking again at you. Okay, I see two, one iffy, right? And one for sure in the back there. Well, I went to college and I sat down with the advisor, and his name was Dr. Benning, so Paul would know who that is. And I sat down with Dr. Benning, who knew a little bit about our background already, just from because my dad was on the trustee board and had taught adjunct professor at the seminary, and so he knew about me. I didn't know about him, but he knew I wanted to go into missions already because he had talked to my dad, and he actually advised me not to do the mission. What do you call it? Mission major, or whatever you want to call it, which is really interesting because it wasn't really developed then. There wasn't really a legit missions department. And so he knew I had been out of the country many times, probably at that point around 20 times on short-term mission trips, which are nothing like what you're going to get when you're a long-term missionary. It doesn't even touch the surface, by the way. And he said, well, as long as you've done that, let's just throw you in the pastoral theology, the pastoral major, your Bible major. And so I went to the pre-seminary degree is what I did. And I went through college about just over 3.5 years. I got finished in 3.5 years. And then my last semester, I went into seminary there at the school, all to go into missions. And to make a long story short, I got to the field in 2006, the same year I graduated seminary. So I graduated college in 2006, and then right away went to the mission field in 2000. I'm sorry, college 2000. Went to the mission field in 2006, and from there it was run off to the races. I'm gun ho. Let's change the world. Americans are the best. We're the kings of the world. That's the mentality that everyone has to fight, and it's so true. Even though you might not think that will be you, that will get slammed in your face pretty quick, because we do think that our whole upbringing is that way, our independence, and I'm sure there's cross-cultural things you guys have talked about, but it's a humbling experience knowing that you're not the best at everything. And I'm coming from college. I played both basketball and soccer. We're two sports. We always excelled in all that stuff. And then, I went to seminary for 10 years, or so 6 years, excuse me, college and seminary 10 years. I know better, right? And we're more educated than the rest of the world. Well, we're not. But that's a part of the cross-cultural emphasis getting into there. So I went to the mission field in 2006, met my wife in 2008. I actually had met her before, but we didn't really talk to each other. We're just in the same room in 2006, a couple of times in 2007. And then we got married in 2011. And I'd come home right before that to get a job and focus on raising support. So you go back as a couple full-time missions. And in 2015, we made it back to the mission field, back to Chile, and we've been here ever since. And I just came back to Chile on my after our first furlough, I think a week and a half ago. We just got back, and we were home on a furlough for 6 months, and then COVID hit, and that extended our 6 month furlough to just over 2 year furlough. And we just got back in the country a week and a half ago, and Paul was talking to me about um, if we could help do a session here and share our testimony. And I said I'd love to give it. And we came down to this date, so I wasn't running like a chicken with my head cut off with all the transitions moving back into the country of Chile. But that's in a nutshell. And as you can see in the picture there, um, you can see the country of Chile actually not long ago in 1973 was a communist country. And part of what we face every day here is a political mindset in the church. And many of the people we work in a poor area. We don't work in the rich area. That's another topic we can get into. But this is a picture of the line to get a little bottle of oil to cook your food. And so the philosophy was everyone gets the same allotment of oil no matter what. You've got to get in line to get your oil. You got to get in line to get your bread. You got to get in line to get your eggs. And so every line took about 4 to 5 hours per week. So this line, it takes them 4 or 5 hours. And I know the stories because my in-laws, my wife's parents, they actually were in these lines. So they're telling me it took me 4 hours to buy bread. And my mother-in-law has 4 sisters. They would separate themselves in the line, and so she would get one piece of bread. Her other sister would get another piece of bread, thinking she was another family, and her other sister would get another piece of bread. And she would actually take her bread, take a bite of it that one day, put it under a pillow, and hide it from her sisters. And then the next day, she would put little drops of water on it to make it softer, and take another bite. And that's how she ate her bread all week long. Well, that's kind of what communism did to Chile, and it came very hard. There was no food, there was nothing in the country, and so they had a coup. The military took over. They call it the golpe. They call it, and this is Pinochet. His last name is President Pinochet, or they call him Dictator Pinochet. And he, with the United States backing and backing from Australia and England, he came in kind of nervous to do it, but eventually did it, and he took over the country with only one bullet being fired, and that was the communist president at the time, committing suicide. And then he took over. This was 1970, I think it was 73. That was the last year of communism. And then in 1989, he was president. They had the first election, 1985, he won it. And next election, 1989, he lost it. And that's when a new person took over. And they've had every 4 years a new president, which they now have an election on Sunday, this coming Sunday, which I get to vote in for the first time. So he took over the country, a dictator. Oops, it's going backwards on me here. As a dictator, and then in that story of him of the military taking over, there's a 15-year-old guy named Ramon. This is Pastor Ramon, and who's my father-in-law. He was 15 years old, joined the military right when when the military took over, and his family. I didn't know this till I started getting to know him. Pastor Ramon's extended family, his aunt and uncle. His one uncle was the head of the Communist Party in Chile. All the rest of the Communist Party ran for the hills, got out of the country, went to Canada and Australia. And his one uncle was the head of the Communist Party that stayed behind to cause chaos. And he's got story after story of bombs going off in the subway stations, all except for the one that he was guarding, because his dad would go to his uncle and say, "Here's where Ramon is, don't bomb it this week." And there's stories like that, just back and forth, and it just makes your hair stand up. Brother against brother, family against family. He went into his cousin's house right down the street from his house. Didn't know it, but he walked in on the main meeting, communist meeting, when he was a military, Air Force, intelligence, and his whole one of their main staples was to find the communists and kick them out of the country. And he walked into the head of the Communist Party in a meeting with all the other heads of the party, his uncle with his buddies. And he said he turned around to walk out of the house, scared that he wasn't going to live to get out of the house. Thought there was going to be a bullet in his head. He started walking out, and as he walked down the street, his cousin came running behind him and said, Ramon, what are you going to do? And he turned around. He said, Jared, my heart was in my throat. I could hardly speak. But all I said, if nothing happens to my family, nothing happens to your family. And that was the atmosphere in the 1970s, in the bottom of the low 1980s, and that was Chile. Well, this is a picture uh, of the inauguration of this new tent building in the church we work in. Pastor Ramon eventually went to seminary while he was in the military at ABWE seminary in Facultad, it's called, in Chile. And then he's helped start 4 different church plants. This particular church plant and the one previously before this, there was not an American involved. And that's a very important ingredient in this formula of missions. And so he started this church with no American involved, and this was in 2013, I believe, where we put up this. Someone donated, one of their Chilean guys donated this structure, and there was too many people in this church, and this was the inauguration of the front yard. And there's a video. I don't know if it will show here. Let me see if I can show it or not. Can you all see that what's going on there? Can you see my screen still?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me see if I can show this. Whoops. Technology should let me do this pretty easily, so we will send this email to. There's Paul. Okay, and can you see that? Is that video YouTube coming up, or is you just looking at my PowerPoint?
You may have to reshare it and pick a different
Okay.
screen.
Stop share. There we go. Let's reshare, and then just desktop one, I guess. There we go. How's that?
Yep.
So, do you get the audio too, or not really?
I'll try to boost it a little bit. I can barely hear it.
I can. Front of the pastor's house where the church started 10 years ago. A little Bible study inside, right inside this door, with about 5 or 6 teenagers from school, from my wife's school and all their friends. And what I'm going to do is going to show you a little bit about where we live and where we're working. And you can see this is the pastor's house. The neighborhood is all really the same way. We're in Latin America, so they're all fenced. Is it pretty choppy for you?
Yeah.
Okay. And they all have things like that. As you walk out into the street, we're not in the greatest neighborhoods, but we the ministry is impactful here in this area because people come to Christ. You share the gospel and they accept and they become committed. It's absolutely amazing. The mission field is on fire down here. Here's our church. Now I just walked out to let it catch up here. The building next to the pastor's house. They're renting this building, and you can see here. There's the name of the church. I don't know if you can see that. But it's just a house. We put a big tent up. We had to put some wood on the top because the rain was coming through. It busted through the ceiling. As I walk in here, you'll be amazed. You would never know it, but this is how they work. And they have made this front yard. They put a red carpet over the dirt and the grass there. We're getting ready for our Christmas sacrificial Sunday, so they're busy decorating. It's absolutely unbelievable how reverent they are and how important that it is to them that they have a beautiful auditorium. But this is a tent. It's incredible what this church does not have, yet in many aspects it has much more than any church that I've ever seen. Right now we're getting ready. They're decorating, doing finishing touches. They have some music. We have people here that are all just giving a hand, very Latino style, kind of how that works here. And everyone pitches in and do the work. Just take a look around. This is the tent. The church started, like I said, in the house next door, and the auditorium for the last 9 years has been this room. And this is where I started in 2009. When I started attending the church, was this room. They're getting ready to have a lot of visitors. We're going to have, they're expecting about 250 people or so. And so this is the family that's getting all the food ready. They're going to give everyone the royal treatment here. And this church is actually has absolutely exploded. When I started, it had about 35 people in 2009. Right now, we average about 120 to 150 people. All in the front yard of this church, even in the cold, 30 degrees in the winter, 35 degrees, wet. And now it's summer, so it's about 85, 90 degrees, depending on the day, and it's a dry heat. And then if you look back, we go back to the back side of the church, we connect back inside to the pastor's house. And here we are. This is how we get back and forth from the pastor's house to the church. I've lived in the pastor's house for the last 3 months, Naldi and I, as we waited for our housing, try to find housing here. This is where we lived, and this is our ministry for now. Pray for us. We're trying to get this foundation built for a. Okay, I think that came through somewhat okay. Church planting camp ministry. I'll just stop that there. For this church is. Give it too much zoom here. So so you saw a little bit about the video, and now you can see a little bit context of the front yard, how big a deal it was for us as a church to have this front yard, because we can't hold 35 people, 120 people inside a living room of 30 built for 35. Well, we still meet in this building today. We actually have several other ministries in there. You can see now there's a black curtain around there. There's the floor. We actually put a cement floor in there. It's still open air. It's still considered a tent, an open air, but we have a Haitian ministry because a bunch of Haitians have come into the country, 17,000 to be exact. And so, and I am at this point in 2006, I'm coming into the country. I had already visited Chile in 2000, I think it was 2 or 3. And I had come to visit some missionaries from our church who worked here. And I had told myself, after seeing how modern it was, after seeing how some of the missionaries were living, I said, I'm not going to go to Chile as a missionary. They don't need me. They don't need missionaries there. And then in 2006, I got a call from one of those missionaries to come teach at the ABWE school, go teach Bible. I ended up teaching Bible, math, history, gym class, and computer, which I had done in a school already in the United States in several years. But and then that's when I said, okay, I'll do it. Let's do it. And we were thinking about, how do we start churches where the American is never the head church planter, where the church starts from the very beginning Chilean and doesn't have any turnover from American to Chilean. How do we do that? And I thought Camp Fit made a very good transition. I don't know what we would call it. A very good way to transition from to get into the country and use that as a church planting mechanism, where the American is never the head church planter. We can help out, we can come alongside of, but we're not the face of that whatever church is being planted. And so I had worked in camp ministries my entire life. I had grown up in it my entire life. I'd been on the director staff about 11 years, and then now was heading to Chile to kind of analyze what would it work. And to be honest, it's worked so far. We thought, man, Chile is so rich. They were modern. They were wealthier than other South American countries. The Christianity has been here for 40, actually now 50 years, and it started working. So in 2006, the seed, this can work here. And then in 2000, we got back in 2015 when I finally got back, and that's when we really started. I came from this, and as I go from 2006, 7, 8, 9, 10, I'm getting shown this, the Chilean way of its church planting. But then I go home for those few years, and I'm coming out of this. My father planted this church called High Point. My grandfather and father, um, and I had to really wrestle in my brain. Okay, what is church for any Christian? Not just for the American or for the Chilean, but what is church? What is our purpose? And so we had to go, I had to wrestle through all that, because to be honest, if you ask me which church is the richer church, I would say the one here in Chile, even though money wise it's not, but everything else, in everything else, every other area it is. It's thriving, it's active, it's energetic, and it's alive, and it's really interesting. So we built a lot of relationships with some of these young people here over the years, and some of the guys that the Lord brought in to my life and taught me a lot are sitting right here in this picture. And these guys started praying with me about what does it look like to have a camp that facilitates church planting, so that Chileans are planting new churches, not Americans planting new churches. And so we said, how do we do this? And so they came up, our team came up with 3 different words. One is identify. So number one, we have to identify. And for me as an American, it's very hard for me to identify a Chilean person who is a mature Christian Chilean believer that can be a leader. It's very hard for me to do that, because I'm used to my American identifiers. And I can go into an American culture, and it's hard enough in my own culture to really identify leaders. And so you asked me to go plant a church in the United States. Let's go. I'll go for it. I understand my own people in the United States. We can work together, but it's even hard in my own culture. Now put me in another culture, and it is really hard for me to identify leaders. So we wanted to identify leaders in churches who can plant more churches. And so we said we're going to use the camp to be that identifier. And so we started a camp ministry just to identify. So we're identifying the lost, we're identifying leaders, and we're identifying churches. Those 3 things, so that we can then train them. You see the next word there, and then connect them to all things church planting. And so and it's a really short slogan, but it gets the idea across. So we started doing it. And in 2016, me and our co-director, that's Matthias in the green shirt there, we started going around and sharing the vision. Here's what we want to do. We want to identify and train and connect, identify, train, connect, identify, train, connect. Let's start a camp ministry for you as a church. We want you to come in, and we want you to run it, and we want you to actually do it. And so we started sharing that all around churches that are already in. There was already probably 250 like-minded churches in Chile already, in Santiago area. And so our own people got involved. We started building some things we could use at camp. We're mobile. We have to be at different spots every year. We don't have our own property, so we got to be able to put things away and set it back up. And our own church got involved. Here's some of our ladies doing the cooking in our very first year. And then our makeshift dining hall we made. It's just a tent, and we had no kitchen there. There's nothing there. We had to set it all up ourselves. And this was our training week. The Word of Life Chile. This is one of the founders of Word of Life Chile, who's no longer working with them, but he still preaches for them and goes and does teaching for them. He came in for us, and he did our camp training for our counselors and for our staff. And then we started. This was our way to go. And I'm not going to show. I don't know if this is going to work or not. Language qualified. Sylvester Stallone is back. So it's a good movie, he said. Well, I would love to be like Rambo and be strong as him. What's this? You got a message. It's like camp's gonna start. I gotta be there. Oh no. But it's only for teenagers. But I could share my experience. I could share. I'm a wrestler. I'm a survivor. No, I can't do any of that stuff. It's like, what's that? There's no one out there, he said. Nothing in it. This is what our campers saw as they first thing they saw when they came to camp, by the way. It's like this envelope is ringing. This is crazy.
Hello, my name is Jared Park, camp director at Tierra Alta Camp, and I want. Perdóname. Mi
I was
nombre
talking in
es
English. The
Jared
kids were
Park,
laughing.
director
So.
de Tierra Alta Camp.
I want you to
Y
be the
quiero
director
que
of
tú
Tierra Alta
seas
Camp.
el animador
I want you to be
de
the
nuestro
first
primer
one.
campamento.
Yo,
He said,
¿por qué
me,
yo?
but
Yo no soy
I'm
nada,
nobody.
no tengo experiencia,
I don't have any
soy
experience.
poca cosa, no,
I really don't know what I'm doing.
no sé, en realidad no,
Sí,
I
nada.
said, yeah, I
sí lo
know,
sé, pero no había más
but there's
opciones.
no other option.
Quiero que tú guíes a los
But
acampantes,
we want you to
a
guide
ser
the campers,
jóvenes, a
to
prueba
be
de
campers
todo.
who are
Tú
survivalists.
serás el
You will
Rambo
be the
chileno.
Chilean Rambo. What
¿Qué
did he
dices?
say?
¿Aceptas?
Yes,
He
sir.
says, yes, sir.
Pero Johnny, debes saber que un animador
You gotta know.
debe poner a prueba su
You've
resistencia,
got to be able to always keep going.
velocidad,
You got to be fast.
agilidad,
You got to be agile.
su fuerza,
You got to be strong.
destreza,
You got to be agile, whatever that gymnastics.
resistencia a
In any
todo
type of
tipo de
climate.
clima. Pero nunca
But you can never,
darse por
never,
vencido.
never give up. So what are you doing?
Hoy comienza el desafío.
Today
Tú
the
vas a
challenge
ser
starts.
Nuestro primer
You're going to be the
animador.
first director,
Bienvenido, Johnny, al
the
campamento
first Tierra Alta
de
Camp
Tierra
director.
Alta.
Welcome to Tierra Alta Camp. And then he came riding into camp on that bicycle you can see, and he rides into the back of the tent. And of course, we only had, you'll get this in a second, we had 40 campers, or 45 campers. So you can imagine they were pumped. They were ready. He comes in, and this guy is he's a ham. He likes to be up front. He's very active. He's very good with a microphone. And so let's see if this keeps going here.
Hold on, Jared. Get
Yep.
to a good breaking point, because I still have the free version of Zoom and it's about to cut us off because you got a couple different screens on here. So I'm gonna have
Gotcha.
to shut it down and then I'll just open up the same link again.
Right here's fine. Shut it down right now.
All right, man. Nice video.
Yeah, I hope it came through.
It did, and these guys seem to think they've seen it before somewhere.
Yeah, in chapel.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. See you in a minute.